the Clinton prison break, shocking New York in 2015. Hey there, everyone. When we think of prison escapes, two iconic pieces of entertainment often come to mind. The classic 1994 movie, The Shawshank Redemption, and the hit 2005 TV series Prison Break, starring Wentworth Miller as the lead. These unforgettable stories have left a lasting impression on us, capturing our imaginations with their daring plots. And the inspiration for these films and shows? It often comes straight from real life. In reality, there have been plenty of successful prison breaks, like the infamous 1960s escape from Alcatraz, where a few inmates managed to break out of a prison surrounded by the icy waters of San Francisco Bay. But here's the thing. Most of the successful escapes we see in movies happen because the prisons are using outdated equipment or technology from a bygone era. Nowadays, most modern prisons are equipped with cutting-edge security systems, making it nearly impossible for inmates to break out. Yet, the story I'm about to tell you today isn't just about a breakout from a high-tech prison. It's about an escape from a facility that hadn't seen a single breakout in its 185-year history. This is the story of the 2015 Clinton Correctional Facility escape, which happened just 8 years ago. Clinton Correctional Facility is located in the small town of Dannemora in upstate New York, USA. The prison was first built back in 1844, near a mountain called Lion Mountain. The original purpose of the prison was to house inmates who could work in the nearby mines, making it easier for them to labor in the rugged terrain. By 1877, after the mining operations were complete, the prison faced a new problem: overcrowding. With the inmate population growing rapidly, the facility was running out of space. So, they decided to expand and renovate the prison, adding more cells and upgrading the infrastructure. They also raised the prison walls to the height of a 4- or 5-story building, making escape seem like an impossible feat. With these improvements, Clinton became a maximum security prison designed to hold some of the most dangerous criminals in the state. The facility boasted top-of-the-line security systems and management protocols, with nearly 1,000 guards working in shifts to oversee the prison. It housed close to 3,000 inmates at the time, earning a reputation as the largest and most secure prison in New York State. The chances of escaping from Clinton were considered practically zero until 2015, when 2 inmates managed to pull off the impossible. So, what exactly happened that day? And how did these 2 prisoners manage to break out? Let's rewind the clock to June 6, 2015, to find out. At 5:30 a.m. on June 6, 2015, the guards at Clinton Correctional Facility began their routine morning head count. Every morning, the prison cells are divided into different sections for inspection. In addition to the standard cell blocks, there's a special area known as the Honor Block, where inmates with good behavior are housed as a reward. After finishing the head count in the regular cell blocks, the guards moved on to the Honor Block. When they reached cells 23 and 24, a guard called out the names of 2 inmates, Matt and Sweat, to check on them, but there was no response. Peering into the cells, the guard saw what looked like the 2 men still sleeping. Annoyed, the guard banged loudly on the cell bars to wake them up, his voice echoing through the block as he shouted for them to get up. Even after 2 or 3 loud attempts, the figures in the beds didn't move a muscle. Something didn't feel right. The guard pulled out the flashlight attached to his belt and shone it into the cells. That's when he realized something was terribly wrong. He unlocked the cell doors to investigate, only to discover that both inmates were gone. The guard immediately reported the escape to the command center. Within moments, alarms blared throughout the prison, and every cell block was locked down tight. All available staff and police were mobilized to search every inch of the facility, combing through every corner for the missing inmates. But the search inside the prison turned up nothing. The authorities quickly escalated the situation, notifying the governor of New York. In response, a massive manhunt was launched. Over 450 law enforcement officers were deployed, along with helicopters to aid in the search. Roadblocks were set up on all major roads, and every vehicle passing through was thoroughly inspected. Police also conducted door-to-door searches in the town, warning residents about the escapees. Because Matt and Sweat were considered dangerous criminals, the manhunt was intense, aimed not only at capturing them, but also at calming the growing panic among the local community. So, how did these two manage to pull off such a daring escape? After a thorough investigation, detectives uncovered how the escape unfolded. Under the beds in cells 23 and 24 in the honor block, they found a neatly cut rectangular hole, a vent opening that had been covered by a metal grate. The hole was just large enough for a person to squeeze through. Behind the vent was a narrow hallway filled with various pipes and ducts. The inmates' cells were on the 4th floor of the prison, so after crawling through the vent, Matt and Sweat climbed down to the first basement level using the gaps in the hallway's structure. Once there, they cut a hole into a large steam pipe. A pipe with a 24-inch diameter, big enough for a person to fit inside. Before leaving, they left behind a taunting note, a piece of paper with a smiley face drawn on it and the words, "Have a nice day." After entering the steam pipe, they crawled hundreds of meters until they reached the prison's underground sewer system. From there, they climbed up a ladder, pried open a manhole cover, and successfully escaped. The manhole they emerged from was 120 meters away from the prison walls. Let's take a look at the prison's layout. Here's the location of the inmates' cells, and here's the sewer exit they used to escape. Again, 120 meters from the prison walls. Not far from the sewer exit were 2 guard towers, Tower 1 and Tower 2. According to the guards, a routine nighttime headcount had been conducted at 10:30 p.m. on June 5th, the night before the escape. They were certain that both Matt and Sweat were in their cells that night. This meant the escape likely took place between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. the next morning. Because visibility outside the prison at night was so low, and because Clinton had never had an escape in its long history, the guards on the 2 towers that night were less vigilant than they should have been. They failed to spot the 2 inmates emerging from the sewer. During the investigation, detectives began to suspect that Matt and Sweat couldn't have pulled off such a sophisticated escape from a high-security prison like Clinton without help. They started by reviewing the inmates' external communications to see if they had accomplices on the outside, but they found nothing suspicious. After ruling out outside help, the investigators turned their focus inward, launching an internal investigation within the prison itself. Among the list of suspects was a prison employee named Joyce Mitchell, a 51-year-old woman. Joyce worked as a seamstress instructor at the prison, where she taught inmates sewing skills and assigned them tailoring tasks. Several inmates tipped off investigators about a strange relationship between Joyce Mitchell, often called Mitch by the inmates, and Sweat. They claimed Mitch would frequently call Sweat to her office alone for reasons that seemed unclear or unnecessary. This wasn't just a one-time thing, it happened repeatedly. The relationship between the two seemed murky and suspicious, especially since Mitch, at 51, wasn't exactly young and carefree anymore. This odd dynamic became a hot topic of gossip among the inmates after meals. Other inmates also noticed Matt coming and going from Mitch's office alone on multiple occasions. When investigators learned about these interactions, they knew it couldn't be a coincidence. They immediately brought Joyce Mitchell in for questioning, and she eventually confessed to everything. It turned out that both Joyce and her husband were employees at Clinton Correctional Facility. Over the years, their marriage had grown distant and strained, creating an emotional void that left Joyce vulnerable. Since all the inmates at Clinton were male, Joyce, as a sewing instructor, found herself working closely with them. Matt and Sweat saw an opportunity and began showering her with attention and affection. Over time, Joyce developed feelings for them, feelings she hadn't experienced in years. Matt and Sweat exploited this, intensifying their charm offensive until they had completely won her over, both emotionally and physically. They preyed on her vulnerabilities, pointing out how unhappy and dull her marriage had become. They promised her that if she helped them escape, they'd make her their top priority. They'd take her with them to Mexico and give her a new, happy life. Joyce, at 51, was so touched by their promises that she agreed to help them. She began smuggling tools into the prison for them: hacksaw blades, chisels, screwdrivers, and other equipment. Every day, she'd hide the tools inside frozen food packages meant for the prison kitchen. Matt and Sweat would then retrieve these packages under the guise of helping with food prep, taking the tools back to their cells. Joyce also provided them with critical information, like the guards' patrol schedules and a map of the prison's pipe system. As the investigation deepened, detectives discovered that Joyce wasn't the only one inside the prison who had helped them. Matt, it turned out, was a talented artist and a well-known painter among the inmates. Because of his good behavior, he had been assigned to the honor block, where he had access to a dedicated studio space for his artwork. Matt often did favors for others in the prison, and he particularly enjoyed painting portraits of famous people. Soon after, another prison guard named Palmer cracked under pressure and admitted to investigators that he had a weakness for Matt's artwork. Palmer confessed that he had brought Matt screwdrivers, pliers, and other tools in exchange for some of Matt's paintings. He thought Matt was just using the tools to build frames for his artwork. He never imagined they'd be used for an escape, but those tools were exactly what Matt and Sweat needed to break free. Matt and Sweat had been planning their escape for over 6 months. They used the hacksaw blades to cut through the metal vent grate under their beds. Every night around 10:30 p.m., there was a routine head count, and every 2 hours, guards would patrol the cell blocks. To avoid getting caught, they stuffed clothes under their blankets and arranged them to look like sleeping bodies. Since the lighting at night was dim and visibility was low, this simple trick was enough to fool the guards during their rounds. Night after night, they deceived the patrolling guards, working quickly to find a way out through the steam pipe system. It took them months to cut a hole in the pipe using a small hacksaw blade. During the winter, the steam pipes were filled with hot steam due to the prison's heating system, making them dangerous to navigate. That's why they chose to escape in the summer, in June, when the pipes were no longer in use. They crawled hundreds of meters through the steam pipe, then descended to the ground via a maintenance shaft. According to their original plan, Joyce Mitchell was supposed to pick them up at a pre-arranged location with a car. Matt and Sweat had even given her 2 pills to secretly give to her husband, hoping to make it easier for them to kill him and eliminate any obstacles. But that night, Joyce couldn't bring herself to go through with it. Her years of attachment to her husband held her back. Overwhelmed by guilt and anxiety, she suffered a severe panic attack. Her husband, concerned for her, rushed her to the hospital for treatment, which threw their entire plan off course. When Matt and Sweat emerged from the tunnel that night, they found no car waiting for them. They were forced to fend for themselves. Joyce's betrayal was something they hadn't anticipated. According to Joyce, they only had a plan A, with no plan B in place. Without her help, their escape became infinitely more difficult. Even though Clinton Correctional Facility was equipped with plenty of modern surveillance gear, those systems were primarily used to monitor the inside of the prison. Outside, there were only a few cameras, and the spot where Matt and Sweat emerged from the sewer had no surveillance coverage at all. Because of this, after the escape, the prison had no idea how long they'd been gone or which direction they'd fled. Their original plan had been to head to Mexico, but they were in northern New York, a long way from the Mexican border. Without Joyce's car, they may have had to abandon their initial plan entirely. Since the police had no clue which way they'd gone, the first day of the manhunt yielded no results. By the second day, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo made a public announcement offering a $100,000 reward for any information leading to their capture. The police knew that the longer the fugitives were on the run, the harder it would be to catch them. They ramped up their efforts, bringing in more officers, setting up additional checkpoints, and intensifying the search. This forced Matt and Sweat to avoid major roads and steer clear of interacting with anyone. Once news of the escape spread, residents of Dannemora and nearby areas became hyper-vigilant. Police patrols were everywhere, and if the fugitives tried to scavenge for food in the area, they risked getting caught with dire consequences. With no other options, the two escapees fled into the dense forest to survive. On June 22nd, the police received a call from a man named John Cross. John often took his dog hunting deep in the woods, where he had a small cabin for convenience during his trips. As he approached the cabin, he spotted a man running away in a hurry from a distance. When John went inside, he found the place in disarray. Most of his food and alcohol had been eaten or taken. The police quickly arrived at the scene, collecting samples of the food and other items for DNA testing. The results confirmed that the DNA belonged to Matt and Sweat. During his call, John mentioned he had seen a man fleeing the scene, leading police to conclude that the two had split up and run in different directions. The police immediately divided their forces to search the surrounding areas. 4 days later, on June 26th, they found Matt hiding in the woods, about 60 kilometers from the border. He was shot and killed by police during the encounter. Matt's body was covered in insect bites, blisters, and scratches, a testament to the grueling 20 days he'd spent on the run. 2 days after that, Sweat was also tracked down by a patrol unit, just 5 kilometers from the border. He was shot and wounded during the capture. In his backpack, police found insect repellent spray, a map, and some snacks. Shortly after, the media broke the news of the fugitives' capture, and locals took to the streets to celebrate, finally able to breathe easy after weeks of fear. In February 2016, Sweat was sentenced to an additional 7 years in prison on top of his existing life sentence, and he was fined $80,000. Joyce Mitchell, the seamstress who aided their escape, was sentenced to 7 years in prison and fined $6,000. The prison guard, Palmer, received a 6-month sentence and a $5,000 fine for his role in the escape. The Clinton Correctional Facility escape case was officially closed. The New York State Police demonstrated a textbook manhunt, and the escapees, along with those who helped them, received their due punishment. In reality, escaping from prison is an incredibly difficult task. Even the smallest mistake at any step can unravel months of planning, and even if you manage to break out, the real challenge might just be beginning. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next case. Goodbye.